Okay, let's do some work for 5.1. I know that we covered this in class before the test, but just as a refresher, I will do this video. And there are going to be four types of problems. It's really two different types. So it's going to be this graph and the table, and these two algebraic ones. So let's quickly get through these. And then once you're done watching this video and finishing 5.1, please do follow with 5.2. So right here with a table, just as a reminder, the way we read this is part A is asking you for the following. It's a composition function, right? Composition functions. Okay. Now let's say you watch this video and you still need a little bit more help. There's nothing stopping you from going to YouTube and watching a composition of functions video. There's a ton of them out there, and then by watching a few, it might help you really understand this. But again, the goal is for you to understand the concept while you're practicing the problems. Don't try to memorize how to do this, but understand the concept. So f of g of 1 is rewritten as f of g of 1. And composition functions, you kind of work inside out, right? Work inside out. And so we always want to focus on what the inside is and then apply that result to the outside. So it becomes a new input for the outside. So when we go and try to solve for g of 1, remember this g of whatever's inside is always the x value, okay? So that's why g of 1, whatever we get for the output, is going to be the new input for f, right? So again, to solve g of 1, we go to 1 for the x, and then 1 is right there, and we ask ourselves, what is the output for g? Not f, but g, and that is 0. So then this becomes f of g of, so sorry, that becomes just 0, right? Because when we plugged in 1, the output was 0. Now see that the output for g of 1 is the new input for f. So now you literally go back to f and now ask ourselves, what do we get as an output when we plug in 0? So when we go to 0, what was our output? It is -1. We're again caring about f. So there you go. That's it. That's the idea behind composition functions, that it's a function within a function. That's what you need to get down. You're doing that via practicing this problem. So you can pause the video here. I'm going to write one problem down and then try it out and then come back for the answer. But I'll still explain it as I have. So I'll do B, sure. F of g of -1. Again, always have structure. To me, if I'm practicing, this doesn't look intuitive. This doesn't look like something I can really use for the long run. So I'll rewrite it like that. That really helps me. That really helps me understand the concept, in that I'm really trying to find out what g of -1 is, because that'll tell me the new input for f. So then I go to now my input -1, which is right here, and I ask myself, what is the output for g? Again, you can pause the video, try it, and then check your answer if you'd like, but I'll keep explaining it. So when we plugged in -1, our output for g was 0. So again, this ended up giving us the same result as 1, right? These two had the same result. That's why we're heading in the same direction here. So when we plugged in -1, our output for g was 0. So now that's the new input for f. And again, we already solved that right here on the previous step. But again, don't just kind of copy. Understand the concept. Again, when we go to 0 now, we're asking ourselves, what's our output for f? Right here, -1. And so that's our final answer. And I'm done with this type of problem. Okay? Moving on to the next one. Same concept, different style of problem. Now you have graphs. These graphs are your functions. So you're going to have to overcome the obstacle of, hey, how good can I even read a graph? That's not pre-calculus, that is algebra 2, that is algebra, but sometimes you just need a refresher. First of all, you always need to identify the functions. This is f, so this whole one right here is f, and then this is g right here. So when we're trying to find out the output for g, we're tracing this graph. When we're trying to find the output for f, we're tracing this graph. So now again, the initial part is the same. So this becomes g of f. Look at the way the composition is written. G of f of -1, right? We read inside out. And so now it's asking us what is our output of f when we have an input of -1. So we go to -1, which is right here, and we ask ourselves, do we go to this first graph, this first one down here, or do we go to this next one? Well, it all depends on what you're looking for. We're looking for f, so we should be scanning this graph here. So when we plug in -1, we want to look for where do we touch f, and we should be touching it right there, and that's output of 1. So at -1, right, our output was equal to g of, our output of f of -1 is 1. Okay, again, how do we get that? We went to -1, which is right here, and the output for our f function was right there. So in other words, you start at your x value, and then you jump to the graph you're trying to scan, which is f right here, and that's 1. So now our new one is g of 1, right? Now it's asking us, now that we have our new input, when we did f of -1, what is g of 1? So all we have to do now is go to 1, which is right here, and if you make a mistake, you're going to scan down. Why is that a mistake? Because we're going to f. Is it f we're trying to solve for? No, g. So at 1, we go up to 4. That's 4 right there. So when we were at 1, our output for the g function was right here. This is where I stopped because that's where the function is. And that value, that output, is 4. So if g of g of 1 is 4. And that's your final answer. That is the answer to the composition of this function. So see, no different. It looks different because it's graph, but it's still done the same. So I'm not gonna go do another example. Okay, this is enough. You just go back in the video so you can hear what I said about this first part, and that's how you do every part, right? Don't overthink it, don't overcomplicate it. Let's go on to these, okay? These are now algebraic. Still same process, so let's just do A. F of g of 4 equals, again, now we're asking ourselves, what is g of 4? What is the output of the g function when we plug in 4? So we go to this g function here, right? We identify them. You should always know the difference. So it's asking us plug in 4 in here. Plug in 4 into this function. What is the output? So I go ahead and do it down here. 36 over 4 squared. Anytime it's x squared like that, I'm going to put in parentheses plus 9. And this is 36 divided by 9. Now it's not 36 divided by 9. It's 36 divided by 16 plus 9, which then equals 36 divided by 25, which you have to ask yourselves, is it reducible? And in this case, it's not. So just leave it like that as your answer, 36 divided by 25 on Delta Math. Now, if you could reduce it as a simple fraction, I hope not Delta Math, Pearson tells you that it's reducible. So it's pretty early, and I believe that that's not reducible, but if it is, you can figure it out, right? So that's it. That's this one, right? The problem for this one is going to be like, do you remember what even absolute value of x does, right? Do you even remember how to square a function? That's your second biggest problem, because sometimes that'll be like, wait, how do I, deal with that. So let's do one more real quick. Let's do um I apologize, I'm not going to restart this video, but we're not finished here. We did solve for, see, we did scratch work and I didn't even label it. We did G of 4 here. Oh my goodness. I'm not about to restart this whole video, but let me finish right here. We did G of 4 here, and then after we do G of 4, this is funny. After we do G of 4, that is your G of 4, and that's what you plug in. Sorry, I apologize. Let me erase this here. Um, you plug it in. So so now we have f of, come on, change. F of 36 divided by 25. All right. Now this becomes your new question. What is f of 36 divided by 25? I realized what I just did when I was like reading this top function. I was like, wait, we never even used that. So now it's literally this. So the output for that is literally asking yourself this question. What's the absolute value of 36 divided by 25? Remember that absolute value function just makes it positive, but guess what? It already is. So that ends up being your answer. It wasn't wrong, it's just we didn't apply it to the absolute value function, so it was accidentally correct, right? So now let's do one more just to clean it up, all right? So let's do B. So G of F. Remember, this is asking yourself, what's G of F of 2? And again, this format also allows you to not make the mistake of which one are you supposed to plug it in first, right? Looking at it like this is sort of confusing to some. So at this point, you'll plug it in and f of 2, so it's literally going to be, you can even plug it in like this if you'd like, just so that you don't forget. It's kind of weird to do it, but what's f of 2? You could do it like this. F of 2 is just literally answering the same question as what is the absolute value of 2? What is the absolute value of 2? And it's already positive, so that becomes G of 2, right? And now you ask yourself, what is a function G of 2? Because that's going to be your final answer. So now you just plug it in, 36 over 2 squared, right? You can put it in parentheses if you'd like. Just don't get confused, whatever you do. 2 squared plus 9, right? And that's 36 over 9 plus 4, 13. I don't think that's reducible because 13 is prime, but again, it's bright and early for me, so just know that either this is the answer, otherwise it's got to be reduced. So keep an eye out for that. Yeah, and this problem is done. So it's that straightforward. Again, when you're doing all these problems, please reflect, understand the concept, not just practice and get the problem done. That's how you perform better on a test, if you continue to hammer out that concept. So that's that for that type of problem. This next one is very, very similar. For those of you who have done it, you realize that, but if you haven't, so concept doesn't change. I'm only going to do one problem in the interest of the video. If I make a little hiccup, then I'll make another problem, or I'll do another one. But other than that, all you need is one, because that's all you need to practice. If you really need more, YouTube. So this again, one last time, that is f of g of x. Okay? This one I find it to be easier because look at this, doesn't necessarily ask you to plug in. It's not like this. It's not asking you to plug in a value. It's actually just saying, hey, plug in the function itself. So we're done here. Like right here, we're not plugging in a value. So this literally becomes f of, and then you literally copy whatever g of x is. G of x is 2x. Now this does get a little gnarly when these functions are long or just complicated, but 2 of x is not that bad. Okay, so not that it's always going to be this straightforward, right? Sometimes these functions could be a fraction. Again, that's not a pre-calc issue, that's an algebra issue when you have to simplify. So again, g of x is 2x, so that's what we replace it with. Now it's asking you, what is f of 2x? So instead of plugging in a number, let's just think about 2. Now you got to plug in 2x. So f of 2x. But the concept is the same, like this. So f of x is right here. And you're plugging in 2x right in there. So I would do it like this, just so that you can keep some form. So 3 times x, but what is x? That's 2x, according to what we just have written in there, plus 2. You see that? We plugged in our new f of x here, which was 2x, into the f of x function. Nothing crazy. If you practice with the easy ones, the ones that become a little bit more complicated with fractions become clear. They're not that easy sometimes because there are fractions and some of us haven't practiced that, but the concept does not change. So literally right here we simplify. So 3 times 2 is 6x plus 2. That is your final answer. That is the original question right there. That's it. We're done. Again, in the interest of time, so that this doesn't become a 50-minute video, this is where we're going to stop at. Watch YouTube videos if necessary.